we're here today to protest that the ABC should be defunded. Now, we're as a nation, the next 4 years, whether it's Labor or Liberal, they're looking at spending $180 billion more than they're going to receive in income and taxes. That's $180 billion excess that needs to be cut to start with. Now, we have an organisation behind us that sucks up $1 billion worth of taxpayers' money every single year. And the thing is, you pay for it with your taxes, our cameraman pays it for it with our taxes, Steve pays for it with his taxes, right? Whether they watch the ABC or not. I think that is unfair. Those that do not watch the ABC, that do not listen to the ABC, should not be forced to fund the ABC, especially in today's environment where there are so many choices of alternate media. I would like to see that $1 billion returned to the taxpayers and let them decide where they want to spend their money. We've got so many alternate media today, so many people doing blogging and podcasts. Now, if someone wants to subscribe to them, and that's how they'd like to get their media, why should they also be forced to fund the ABC?
Now, this is one of your big policies, also zero company tax and hiring the threshold for personal income tax. Why are these policies so important for Australia?
Our nation is going backwards. Just look at the data. Don't take my word for it. Look at the data, look at the comparisons of household income, look at our comparisons against the OECD nations. We are one of the worst performing nations in the world. We are going backwards as a nation. Our wealth is declining. Our GDP per capita is going backwards. That means everyone's slice of the pie is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So we need a completely new approach. Now, at the Libertarian Civil, we want less taxes and more freedom. And every one of our policies fits underneath that. We want to see this policy of net zero, like it has been done in China and America and Russia and India and Indonesia, abandoned. We are doing this, it is fruitful, it is futile, it is pointless, and it's extremely costly. It's pushing up the price of energy and electricity in this nation, and everything is embedded with electricity, the cost of electricity, everything that we do. That's why one of the main reasons we're going backwards as a nation, and that's got to end.
And your policy towards energy, as I understand it, is no bans, no subsidies.
No, look, it's just, we are best to firstly stop all the subsidies. People do not understand the massive amounts of subsidies that go into all these solar and wind farms that we see being built, right? Last year it was over $3 billion. This year it's going to be $4 billion. We've spent as a nation over the last decade more than $20 billion on subsidies on these things. And what's happened to electricity prices? They haven't gone down, they've gone through the roof. So these subsidy schemes are not working. If we look at China at the moment, China has got some of the lowest cost electricity in the world, and they're using our Australian coal. So what type of madness is it that we've got this beautiful black coal seam that runs down our eastern seaboard, and we've got the Labor and Liberal Party saying, no, you Australians can't use this, we've got to close down on our coal-fired power stations, but it's okay to ship it to China. China currently have 20 times our existing coal fleet under development construction today. That's new that they are building, 20 times what we have, which we are closing down. We are transferring our wealth to China. Everything to do with this net zero policy hands an economic, political and military advantage to the communist Chinese. That's why we've got to stop it. We've got to reverse course. So we don't have there's no climate crisis, but there's certainly a cost of energy crisis in this nation.
But for me to understand this, so you're also saying no subsidies for fossil fuel companies, yes, and you're not saying no renewables, you're just saying let the market
let the market work out what is the best efficient. Now, saying that, you've also got the issue of sovereign risk. Now, this is a problem. If I'm going to invest in a new power plant today, I need a return on that. That's an asset that'll have 20, 30, 40, 50 years in existence, right? Now, what government will we have in 2 weeks' time? There's likely to be an Albanese Bant Greens government that's likely to come in and say, you guys will have to close down. So it's that sovereign risk that really puts concern in investors. If we're able to let the market simply work, we'll get the lowest cost of electricity. And remember, you hear Chris Bowen saying, oh, all these renewables are cheaper. Well, you've got to make sure you're comparing apples with apples. You cannot compare intermittent generation that only works when the sun's out or when the wind's blowing with baseload power that you can turn on and off with a switch. And when you add all those costs to those renewables to back them up, they are many, many times dearer than what we pay for our fossil fuel generation.
And there's been a lot of changes in the economy recently with Trump and the US and tariffs.
Yep.
Do you see that as a threat to Australia?
Look, the international economy is always a threat to Australia. That's why we've got to be as strong and as self-reliant as we possibly can here as a nation. Look, hopefully Trump's tariffs, I hope President Trump is doing this as a bit of game of bluff, and I hope his plan is actually to lower tariffs around the world, which would be better for the entire globe, the economy of the entire globe, rather than trying to rack up tariffs. So I can understand from Americans' point of view, they say we are having low tariffs for goods imported into our country, but we don't have reciprocal rights with our exports from America. So I hope, and I can think we're seeing some evidence of this, that Trump's plan is actually to bring those tariff barriers down across the world.
And you were a part of the Liberal Party,
Yes.
then the United Australia Party.
Yes.
What drew you to finally the Libertarian Party?
I've always, many of we say the Libertarian Party are the refugees from the Liberal Party. Where I think the true believers in liberal values. If you look at where the Liberal Party is today, they are 100 miles away from the parties of Sir Robert Menzies. You read through their statement, what we believe. They talk about individual freedom and individual rights and supporting small business. They've abandoned all those policies. Right? They are no longer the Liberal. They are not the Liberal Party that I first joined. It was the Liberal Party that walked away from me, not me walking away from the Liberal Party. So yes, I did after I was going to run an independent. We had an opportunity with the United Australia Party at the last election. That, for many reasons, didn't work. So I think I've now come home to where I belong, the Libertarian Party.
And if you had to summarise really shortly, why should voters vote for the Libertarian Party at this election?
Well, firstly, the major parties have failed our nation. Right? We've had gone Labor, Liberal, Labor, Liberal, Labor, Liberal, and we've seen over the last decades our standard of living fall. We've seen how for young guys like yourself, how do you pay your rent, housing affordability? This is all because of the Labor and Liberal Party policies. It's time that we need many more independent voices in Parliament. Right? We need them both the lower house and the upper house. Right? Now that is why, as a Libertarian Party, you want someone in there that's going to advocate very strongly against what is going to be likely a Labor Greens government, because we've seen through the last 3 years, the Liberal Party are simply not strong enough to take the fight up to the Labor Party and the Greens. That's why I'm hoping that people will support myself here in New South Wales, the Libertarians Party in the Senate, and all our great Libertarian candidates across the nation.
Amazing. And finally, what would you do about that housing and rental crisis that you just mentioned?
Well, firstly, you have to admit, and this is what I get upset about, the problem with the housing crisis is excess migration. Now, we can't even get Mr. Albanese to say the word, right? We've imported 1.3 million people into the country over the last 3 years. That's the net number. It was actually 2 million when you exclude the people that have left the country. We've got 1.3 million extra people into the country. And no nation with the size of population of 27 million can actually get that number and provide the housing and the infrastructure for them. It is madness to bring that number in. This is not about, also, very important point, it's not about being anti-migrant. It's the people that are most hurt by these large numbers of people coming into the country in recent years are the migrants that have come here over the last decade. They are the ones that are most affected. They are the ones that decided to make the decision to migrate to Australia. They looked at what the cost of living were. They looked at what they needed to afford to buy a house. They looked at what they can earn. Now all those numbers are now thrown out the window, and they've moved to Australia thinking they could afford to buy a property in this country, and now they find they can't. So you have to firstly attack the rate of migration. We've got to wind that right back until we can get the housing construction up. Now, rather than say, let's keep the migration and we'll do the housing construction, it should be the housing construction that drives the migration rate. That's what you need to do. I'd also like to see our regional areas really need to be, we've got to improve the transport links. So young guys like yourself can say, you know what, I might go and live down at Nowra. I can be 5 minutes from the beach, I can be 5 minutes from my work, and I can get, if I need to get to Sydney, I can get to Sydney on great transport in less than an hour. So if we strengthen those regional areas, it's got to give young Australians the opportunity and the real choice that I can move out of Sydney and I can live in a great part of the country. And if I want to come back to Sydney to visit family, friends, relatives, I can do so easily and quickly. If we do that, look, yeah, anyone that flies down the country or drives around the country sees the abundant land that we have. To think that we've got small patches of dirt in Western Sydney that are now costing $1 million is just utterly ridiculous. We've got to get out and we've got to use and take advantage of the size of our Australian continent.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, mate.
Thanks.
Really
Okay.
appreciate it.
Okay, all good.
Have a good one.
Thanks, guys. And remember, vote Libertarian.